Okay, right. Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our GW4 webinar on how to handle impact in EPSRC proposals. I'm Jane Kawaja. I'm the new Interim Director for GW4. I'm in week 2 now. And I joined GW4 from the University of Bristol, and before that worked at EPSRC. So I will be welcoming some of my former colleagues in a little bit. In terms of today, we've got an hour and a half. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Cardiff and EPSRC for hosting this. And thank you to our GW4 colleagues for organising this session as well. I will briefly do a quick intro on GW4, who we are, and then hand over to EPSRC, who will run the rest of the session with a presentation. We'll then have a short break and a Q&A and discussion. Please do keep a note of your questions and put them in the Q&A box. And please do participate in the discussion later on. So I will then wrap up at the end of the session very, very briefly. Right, so GW4, so we were established in 2013 and the Alliance, GW4 Alliance, brings together 4 of the most research intensive and innovative universities in the UK. So we are Bath, Bristol, Cardiff and Exeter. And collaboration is very much at the heart of what we do, bringing together our communities, very much greater than sum of the parts. We have well over 8,000 academics. We have over 23,000 postgraduate students, and all working together to harness the combined research income of well over £370 million. There's a lot that's unique within our region, and one of them is that we're the only research alliance to cut across England and the devolved administration. So, you know, working with 2 governments with the variations in policy, 2 different NHS, 2 different health systems. And that very much defines the excitement within our region and how we work together. Now, our region is home to various sectors, including the UK's largest aerospace sector, the UK's first nuclear power station for a generation. And we have more climate expertise than any other area worldwide. So there's lots that's unique about what we do and how we do it. So very, very exciting at the moment for us as a region, with various developments within government, locally, nationally and internationally. So we basically have funded, up to now, funded 93 collaborative research communities. We've invested £2.9 million in those research communities and generated over £46 million in research income. So this means that for every £1 that we spend on collaborative research communities, we capture over £15 in external research awards. We also work, those communities also work with well over 200 external partners and have published numerous papers or in the process of publishing them. So together, we're contributing to knowledge transfer and real world impact. We have influenced national policy, for example, on the gender pay gap discussions. We have developed world-class facilities, for example, the GW4 Isambard supercomputer. And we've also provided foundations for major research programs, and now are moving into developing initiatives at scale. So thinking about climate, net zero, antimicrobial resistance. So those are some of our priorities going forward at the moment. So that was a very, very quick introduction about GW4, and I hope that we all continue to engage with us as we continue to do some amazing research and collaborate across our region and nationally. So I am absolutely delighted to welcome our EPSRC colleagues today. Glenn Goodall is Head of Economic Impact at EPSRC, and his role covers embedding impact and the impact strategy more broadly. In addition, he's responsible for the direction of the various schemes and activities that are designed to maximize economic impact of research outputs. Michelle Lascelles is Senior Manager within the EPSRC Impact team. So Michelle has responsibilities including management of impact acceleration accounts, public engagement and embedded impact. Dee Lodia is Portfolio Manager within the Impact team as well. And Dee is responsible for managing the impact acceleration accounts and also assisting with public engagement activities. And we've also got Anne Chalkley, who's a Portfolio Support Manager with the Impact team and also business engagement teams. And she assists with the delivery of the impact acceleration accounts and industrial case programs. I also wanted to welcome James, who's behind the scenes in the events team and helping out with various logistics. So thank you for that, James. So without further ado, I'll hand over to our colleagues, and thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your knowledge, experience and information with us. Over to you.
No problem. Okay.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Bear with me a second. This is where we play that game. Can you see what I'm seeing? Okay, go on. There you go. Can you see the right slides, everyone? Okay, good. Right. Thank you, Jane. That was a really nice introduction. And also thank you for GW4 and Cardiff as hosts for allowing us to kind of trial this with you. So this is like the first in a series of impact roadshows that we're going to do around the country, just to kind of help academics get a better handle on how to use, how impact works in the kind of new world without pathways to impact. So as Jane has already said, the whole team is here. So Michelle will talk next. And then we've got Dee and Anne who will be looking at your questions throughout. So please do put in questions as we go, and we'll kind of try and curate them into like strands as we go. So thank you for this. So broad kind of agenda for today. So we're going to have, I'm going to talk to you about the kind of the more high level, our philosophy for our new philosophy for impact going forwards. And then Michelle will talk about how that works on the ground. So more kind of in the applications that you make, how do you apply that? And then we're going to have some final remarks, and then we've got a Q&A session as well, which won't be recorded actually. So feel free to ask whatever you like. But first, to kind of as a bit of interactivity, where is it? We have a poll. So I'm just going to set that up for you. We'll launch the poll. It's really, really simple. It's just simply, given the recent changes to Pathway to Impact, do you think maximising impact from research is still important? Okay, it's anonymous, so feel free to say what you want. This is really interesting. I can see the percentages going up. We're at 50% now. I'll just wait for it to finish, and then I'll end the poll and you can have a look. I feel like I should do a drum roll. Okay, 80%. Some people waiting for the last minute. 85. I'm sorry, this must be so weird to watch. 86, 87. 88, there's very little change here. Okay, right, I'm going to call it at that point. So, looks like most people think yes, which is nice to hear. But there's one or two unsures and one or two no's. Also completely fine. So, basically, as I've gone on a slide. So as UKRI, we were kind of reviewing impact anyway. We were thinking about what our strategy would be going forwards before last year anyway, before Christmas. And we'd had several workshops which some of you may have been involved with from EPSRC, trying to think about how do we maximise kind of impact of applications. And then some government directives accelerated this work. And actually the Pathway to Impact and also the impact box on the application was removed quite quickly in March. So this happened at pace. So one of two of you that are unsure, maybe these comms didn't quite get to you because it was at pace and we recognised that. So that's why we're here today, is just hopefully to kind of give you a kind of an overview of where we are. It is still early days. We're only just out of the point where we have a mixed economy of grants that are coming in, proposals that are coming in with Pathway to Impact and without. So there's still a learning for us as well to kind of find out kind of how are you guys getting on, and also what are the kind of interesting ideas of how people are handling these things as we go on. Okay, So, one moment. So this is my part where I'm just going to talk about the impact in a brave new world. So it's essentially the kind of the high level kind of we're calling it philosophy of how we're looking at impact going forward. So first of all, just to kind of look at what we did as EPSRC. So in the removal of pathway to impact, the whole point was to kind of streamline the process for you as an applicant. So as I already said, pathway to impact has gone, the impact box has gone as well. At EPSRC, impact as a criteria has been incorporated into the quality criteria. Okay, and this was all designed to remove the kind of bureaucracy from your side, and it's all part of our reforming our business program, which is ongoing within UKRI. And in terms of kind of integrating impact, it means that you have to articulate impact throughout your application now, and it's kind of you basically need to look at it in a level that's appropriate for your proposal. Okay, so it's no longer the big bang pathways to impact. We've had people say to us in the past, quite notable people as well, say they used to write their pathways to impact and then forget about them. We're hoping to change the culture so it's more kind of you think about it more throughout the entire process. And I've spoken about the appropriate kind of like nature of activities. So you're free to be creative as you like. So we know that kind of knowledge-based impact is just as important as the kind of economic and societal ones. You don't necessarily have to have the kind of loads of fancy activities on your proposals. It's whatever's appropriate for you at the time that you think you need, and that's absolutely fine. And then we've got this other part about we're thinking about the kind of life cycle of research, and that covers for academics, it's thinking about when you plan, your next proposal. So thinking about impact at that stage. When you're applying, think about it. So when you're writing your application, and then when you're actually delivering the research, it's keeping all of that, impact in mind at all times. And then on our part, we need to think about it more when we're planning activities, more when we're delivering calls, make it really obvious what you have to do, and make it easier for you. And also for us, it's about capturing the kind of outputs, outcomes, and impacts of your research, so that we can better tell the stories. Okay. So sorry, this is a wall of text, but this is essentially what it says on our website now. So if you Google EPSRC impact or pathways to impact, you should be able to find a page that says some of this. So the kind of key points here, it's, as I've already said, it's about deciding what's appropriate for you as the academic. Okay, so what outputs and outcomes do you think you expect from your research? Okay, and that can be about furthering knowledge. Okay, that's fine. And then you think about what kind of partnerships, what kind of partners, stakeholders might be interested. This could be other academics. That's also absolutely fine. And then you kind of might want to kind of think about how you might maximize the potential of these kind of outputs and outcomes as you go along. And that could really be you talk to someone else in another department. It could be that you fill out research fish so that other people can see the potential of your research. It could be you generate a load of data, you make sure that it's got the right metadata, and you put it onto research fish and you've got a link to your database. Okay, that's as simple as it could be, all the way up to kind of applied where you might have like some kind of benefits realization plan, and other sorts of bits and pieces. So touching on that, so the second part where we have these examples for discovery research and applied research. So we recognize that the system has to cover fundamental research and very applied research. So one size doesn't fit all. So it has to have the wriggle room to cover both pieces. Okay. So, and we accept that knowledge-based kind of impact is just as valuable as economic. Okay. So as time goes on, we kind of want, as I've already said, we kind of want to kind of get your ideas on what works and what doesn't as well. So you have that in the back of your mind as well. So if there is something that you've done and it kind of worked really well, please let us know. And equally, if you did something and it was a complete mistake and no one should ever do it, also tell us. These are the things that we'd like to know. So going beyond EPSRC and thinking about the bigger family, UKRI family, so the changes happened at pace. So I think we acknowledge that the removal of pathways to impact was very, very rapid. So as councils, we are working together to kind of think about the common understanding of impact. So we're trying to think about how do we make sure that we're using the same language so that when you apply for a call. So now we have a new system. You may have noticed there's a new, I've forgotten the name of it, a colleague will tell me later. If you search the UKRI website, we have the kind of, you know, there's all the calls on there for all councils. And the point is you should be able to apply for any call and understand what impact means in that call. Okay, and that's where we want to get to. So we're working on that now. So thinking about stakeholders more broadly, government as ever are really interested in impact. So Treasury always ask, what's the point? What's the point of the research? So impact's really useful for us to be able to kind of make cases, which I guess we find out in a couple of days as well, to, you know, spending reviews of why more money is needed for research in the UK. Other academics as well. I think I've said this to death now. So that's, you know, thinking about your other academics and beyond. You might be thinking about some ethicists. You could be talking to someone in a completely different department. It's just thinking about what stakeholders might be interested to pick up your research going forwards. Or it could be your neighbour next to you, and that's also absolutely fine. Businesses and industry. So this is quite an interesting one. So we presented the changes to Pathway into Impact to our business engagement forum quite recently, and they weren't very happy that it had gone because it was a very useful tool for them, because they felt like it was something that they could write and then they could use internally to bid for money, bid for resources to essentially help with your research, because the benefits that they would gain out of it. So it was a very useful tool for them. So what we're saying is you need to think about if there is an end user that you will kind of want to interact with your research, get them involved up front, make sure they are involved with, you know, how the impact is kind of threaded throughout your application. Maybe you have a work package which is about, you know, working with end users as well, that they can then use to say, hey, look, this is the point of why we're doing this. So this is ongoing work. We're going to continue to work with businesses to make sure, you know, this works for them as well, and take that forwards. Okay. So, Swindon. So we are based in Swindon. You may not know or may know, and there is the delightful Magic Roundabout, which is in the top 10 things to see in Swindon. I kid you not. If you Google it, it's there. So why am I showing you this? So this is thinking about that life cycle of research. Okay, it's almost like a roundabout of impact. This is a terrible metaphor, I'm sorry. So there's no right answer. Okay, so it's kind of, you know, you can take several pathways through this roundabout. You can go around several times. You can get off. You can get on. Okay, the journey is different every time. But it's about thinking about what's the outcome that you want and what's the best journey to get there. And it may not be a complete straight line. There may be lots of parts to it. But it's thinking about all of those steps as you go along, and how do you make sure that those steps can happen, okay, or not, or are there alternatives that you can get to? So I'm going to move away from the beautiful Magic Roundabout. So going on to our new philosophy of how we maximise impact. So Sir Mark Walport, our ex-CEO, he actually challenged research councils to capture the outputs, outcomes and impacts of essentially your research, so that we can better tell the stories of research success in the UK. Okay, so that has been something that's been driving UKRI for a long time now, and this is where this is coming from. Okay, so I've spoken to you about the life cycle of research already, that beginning to end kind of piece. What, you know, for you and also for EPSRC, what's, you know, what do we need to think about? And then next, it's like thinking about the planning. So before you've even done, you know, written your application, it's thinking about, well, what do you need? What kind of potential impact can there be? How can you maximize it? So this is before application, at application stage. So Michelle will talk about some kind of a bit more detail on that in a moment. And the next part is like taking those plans and thinking about actually what appropriate activities might you use, okay, to kind of propel your research and propel the outcomes further. And Michelle will talk about that a bit later. So we have some examples where in some schemes that we have, people have taken impact and put it as a work package. Okay, but you could go further than that. You could extend it to public engagement. It could be about knowledge exchange, knowledge transfer, commercialization. There could be some societal thing that you put in there and make it really obvious that, you know, you're basically flagging to the reviewer that I'm thinking about impact here. And it's also thinking about the appropriate kind of costed and itemized activities. So quite often on, we do a dipstick every year, and you look at grants and they say impact event or impact activities, 60 grand. And you think, okay, what's that? So now we have less space. It's like trying to itemize what are these things that you're going to do. Okay, and then in your case for support, you want to say, well, what's the benefit of that? And then lastly, the communication of research successes. So this is a two-way thing. So as EPSRC, we are really interested in hearing about your outputs, outcomes, and impacts of research. These can be early stage, they can be late stage. So it can be everything from you got some IA money and you did like a Friday project and it turned into a grant and a postdoc, and then maybe you got a CDT, I don't know, maybe you did a prosperity partnerships and then you got innovate money and then suddenly it's a product. That's a great story, those sorts of things. We want to know those, but also it could be as simple as you working with a completely different person in a completely different discipline, maybe a social scientist, an economist, someone like that. You come up with something interesting that actually has an offshoot that you're going to explore further. We're interested in that as well. So you get an outcome that you weren't expected, but it's interesting. We're also interested in all of those things. So I think Michelle will say this as well later, but do tell us. So if you have a contact, if you know a portfolio manager, if there's a theme that you interact with on a regular basis, do tell them what's going on, because we want to hear it. And we want to hear about your kind of, you know, your future plans as well on this. Okay. So this delightful diagram, sorry. The colors are very grand, I think, on this, but anyway, ignoring that. So whether you're writing your proposal, reviewing, or sitting on a prioritization panel, you need to be thinking about the types of research that might be generated or you might generate. Okay, and then thinking about the kind of appropriate activities that you might do or might be done. Okay, and that's the kind of thing you want to be thinking about. So from a reviewer point of view, this is interesting. You need to kind of like find these sorts of things within their research to kind of see, well, actually, are they thinking about impact? Because it is part of a criteria, and that is part of our quality criteria, which is our primary criteria. So actually it's become more important in real terms. But this scales, okay? So you can be, fundamental research might be all in the knowledge bubble, okay? And that's completely fine. And you might have something a bit more kind of like discovering transformative or emergent kind of services, products, technologies, those sorts of things. You might go a bit wider. You might be thinking about societal. Okay, how does it fit in? What's the business model here? You might be thinking about people, like, do we need to upskill people? Is that a thing that needs to happen? You might be thinking more kind of commercialization route, those kind of pieces. All of this is valid. Okay, so I'm going to stop now. So hopefully this has given you a nice kind of overview, a really high level, probably high speed, I'm sorry, overview of kind of where we're going with impact at EPSRC and hopefully within UKRI as well. I'm now going to move over to Michelle, who's going to talk to you about kind of a bit more detail. So if I give you power, hang on a second.
Thanks, Glenn. So yeah, I'm just going to follow up with what Glenn's talked about there at a higher level, just to talk in a bit more detail about handling impact in applications to EPSRC. And I'm just trying to change the slide, bear with me. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. There's always got to be one technical issue, hasn't there, on these things? So on this first slide, it's just really just advising you to think about impact from the outset. So when you are starting off planning the project, the research, what that looks like, and thinking about how you're going to convey that and put together a strong case, building those thoughts around impact and what that might look like in your proposal. So some sort of things that you might want to consider is, you know, what's the objective, the benefit, who's going to be responsible for doing it, who will be involved, do you have the connections, and if not, how will you engage them, when's it going to happen, what are the timings, and you know, what are the costs, what the realistic costs that you need and resources, and how do you factor that in and cost that into your proposal. Absolutely, space is now a bit more limited because the additional 2 pages is gone. But hopefully by planning these activities, embedding them and making them an intrinsic part of your case, you can use the space intelligently, I guess, and by making the activities that you're doing with impact specific and succinct, you can make the most of the space you have to put across your case. So thinking about the actual application and the case for support, you can now integrate your impact planning and activities throughout the case for support. So for example, in the track record, you can talk about partnerships, you can talk about perhaps co-design, how you've worked with others to design the research that you're proposing. You can talk about the roles of partners and what they might do to increase impact creation. Within background, you can talk about the context in terms of the industrial policy, societal context, who might benefit and how. You can also bring out some of this impact as part of the national importance and demonstrating national importance in terms of the impact of research. In the research hypothesis and objectives, think about the potential outcomes and what those measurable objectives for impacts might be. And finally, within the programme and methodology, actually setting out your impact related activities. So that might be workshops, engagement, videos, training, tools, and think about the costs that you want, but be creative and think about this with an open mind, and be open to those different types of and examples of impacts that that Glenn showed on the diagram earlier. It's really important that you think about the resources for impact and how they're going to be managed. So who's going to be responsible for the impact activities? How are they going to be delivered? How much is it really going to cost? And how are you going to involve your partners in the best way? A really key message that we hope that you take away from this is that we really do strongly encourage that you properly cost and request the resources that you want to do for your relevant impact activities. This is not an exhaustive list, but it is gives you some ideas of the sorts of impact costs that we see and we are happy to see within your case for support and on applications. So travel costs, that might be things like engaging with your existing partners, but also you might have costs that help you build new partnerships. So, you know, setting up meetings with potential users, people exchange, secondments. For example, you might have a secondment between industry, university, government, training for researchers in things like public engagement, entrepreneurship, and media training. Engaging expert staff. So for example, knowledge exchange professionals, consultants, business planning support, commercialization, research software engineers, all that sort of thing is fine. Money for comms, marketing design, video, web content, knowledge exchange. So, and you know, workshops, seminars, networking, ways that you might share tools and techniques, particularly if you would want to kind of engage with people in other disciplines, and thinking about also data management, for example, sharing of data sets. Now, not all of these things are going to be relevant to every project. These are just examples, and there are others that are not on here. And so, but it's bearing in mind that these are the sorts of things that you might build into your project if that's appropriate. And so it's just having that open mind to think about the different types of costs that you might apply for, and the types of activities that you might do to maximize the impact of your research. this is new for reviewers too. So, so if you've been involved in reviewing proposals or you've been on panels, you're used to having pathways to impact statements, which sets out separately the plans for impact. So that's no longer there. Everything is now integrated and embedded within the application. But there are ways that you can make it easy for reviewers to really understand and show that you've really thought through the impact activities that you've included. So you could, for example, include them in your work plans, Gantt charts as specific activities and milestones. You can flag activities throughout the case support. You can include, as Glenn mentioned early, you could have if it's appropriate, a specific work package for impact, or you can include them within an existing work package, but you might want to just have a subheading of impact to draw the attention of the reviewers to those things, so that when they are looking at that impact, when they're thinking about assessing the impact and the plans that you've put forward, that they're able to pick that up easily. So impact is now covered under the quality criteria when it's being assessed. So if you're asked to review a proposal or to be on a panel, that's primarily where you will consider impact. And so as a reviewer or panel member, you think about what activities might be appropriate, think about whether the activities are fully costed and itemized, and what stakeholders might be involved. Is it obvious how they're engaged? Are the plans thought through? Are they costed appropriately, etc. So Glenn's already said a little bit about this. Just to reiterate the point that we are interested in the outputs, outcomes and impacts of research, and there's various ways that we collect that. Obviously you probably all be used to putting your outputs onto research fish, but also in terms of the engagement that you have with EPSRC, either through the portfolio manager you normally interact with, or when you talk to themes from EPSRC. These are the sorts of things that you could build into those conversations, just letting us know some of the impacts of your research, whether that's short, medium or long-term impacts, or it's case studies, or just some insights, or this happened, are you interested in that? Just keep us engaged and up to date with things. We certainly would appreciate that. So just a few final points from me, just before I just give you some information on where to get other further guidance and help. So this is not about predicting the future. It's not about being able to say exactly what's going to happen down the line. Impact can happen over a very long time scale, so we're not expecting applicants to predict the impact of the research. But this is more about putting in place the plans and the activities to ensure that we can maximize the potential for impact. So, what can we do to really give the best chance that the impacts from this research are maximized? Similarly, reviewers are not expected to make assumptions about the probability of benefits being fully delivered, and there is no expectation for impacts to be realized within the lifetime of the research project. So this is about setting the stage to make sure that those impacts are realized, whether that's on a short or a longer time scale. Hopefully that's provided a useful overview for you. There is a huge amount of detailed guidance on our website. So as we reviewed our guidance back in March when the Pathways to Impact was removed, we did a thorough job of looking at all the guidance and making sure that there is information on impact in all of our guidance documents, whether that's the guidance for case support, guidance for reviewers, guidance for panel members. So the link on this slide, which we can share the slides after the event, takes you to the case for support guidance, but the EPSRC website has a lot of guidance documents around applications and reviewing applications, and you will find guidance on impact within those. I feel like I've said this to death now, but your EPSRC portfolio manager is always at the end of the email or phone, happy to talk to you and give advice. If you don't know who the best portfolio manager is, then have a look at our website and the contact details are on there. Or just pick someone and say, this is what I want to talk about, who's the best person, and we're always happy to pass that on and find the relevant person for you. We are a friendly bunch and we are absolutely happy to talk to people or to respond to emails. So please do get in contact if you need help and advice. I've also put on there the our impact email for reference. So it might be that you feel it's useful to come direct to the impact team, which is absolutely fine. But equally, your portfolio manager can help the person you would normally interact with. And of course, there is a huge amount of help and guidance available within your universities and within GW4. So I've put on this slide just the main contacts for each university for help and guidance around impact. So please also, make sure you make use of the help and the guidance that those guys can give you. They are obviously, the holders of a huge amount of knowledge and can often be a useful first step for queries or around this sort of thing.